And welcome to the Culture Show, the show where I talk about African mythology and how it relates to us today. I'm AC3, your host. I'm a total mythology geek. I love all mythologies, and I've been curious about African mythology, so I decided to learn more about it. And now I will tell you what I have learned, how it relates to us today. On today's episode, we'll give you a proper introduction to the Orishas from start to finish. Not all of them, but the most important ones, and a special story on how they got their powers. So stay tuned. On last week's episode, or a few weeks ago, we talked about Olukun's revenge. How Olukun almost wiped out the whole earth. So on this episode, I'll give you a quick introduction to the Orishas and a special story on how they got their powers. Now, this is not all of the Orishas. There are actually 1,700 Orisha deities. I'm only explaining the more important ones, so I'm not explaining all of them. But if you want to learn more, there's always the internet, and there's also, of course, this podcast that you can listen to if you want to learn more about the Orishas and you want to learn all of them. So, first we'll give you a quick introduction to the Orishas on character introductory. This will be the longest character introductory we've had on the podcast. Obatala, also known as Orishas, is the god of creation, known for the creation story. You also know Olukun, god of the sea, Olurun, supreme god, and Orunmila, the Orisha of divination. So, now we need to talk about other gods that we haven't featured on episodes yet. Osane, the god of nature, herbalism, and healing. He actually lost some limbs once and now uses a crutch, a stick. Oshun, the Orisha of love, beauty, and fertility. She is also the patroness of women who want marriage. Oya, the Orisha of storms. Yamaja is the Orisha of the seas and motherhood. She is also the protector of children and the source of life. Hopefully, Yamaja's protecting me while I make this podcast. Shango, the god of thunder, lightning, and justice. Thor is also the god of thunder and lightning in Norse mythology, and Zeus is the god of lightning in Greek mythology. All of them have the power of thunder and lightning. There's always a god for thunder and lightning in mythology. Ogun, the god of war. Ares is also the god of war in Greek mythology, so another relation between Greek mythology and African. Orugan is the god of air, and Eshu is the god of trickery. And Loki is also the god of trickery, has his own movie, and is in Norse mythology. And also there is Anansi, the trickster spider, and Brer Rabbit, the trickster rabbit, in African mythology. So it's interesting how the Africans use tricksters in their mythologies, in their stories. The 7 African powers are the 7 most powerful gods in Orisha mythology. Those gods are Eshu, Ogun, Obatala, Yamaja, Oshun, Shango, and Oya. Those are the 7 most powerful gods in Orisha mythology. But how did they get their powers? We're about to find out on our story today on how the Orishas got their powers. Before the Orishas became the Orishas, they were human. They pretty much did everything humans did. And whenever they needed help, they had to ask Orunmila or Olurun for it. So, a guy named Oko wondered why should he have to do that? And he asked Orunmila to give him special powers so he could help the world. And soon, Ogun asked for special powers to help keep the world going. And soon, all the Orishas were asking for special powers. And Orunmila said, to whom should I give a power to another? So Orunmila left, thinking about what the heck to do. And while he was on his walk, he met Agembo, the chameleon. Agembo asked Orunmila, what is the matter? And Orunmila explained the situation. And here's what Agembo said. Maybe we should give this a chance. Return to the sky. Send the messengers to the ground and announce that on a day, you will rain down power from the sky. Let the Orishas catch whatever they can, and whatever they catch will be their power. So that's what was done. Ormilla went back to the sky, sent messengers announcing that on a day he will pour down powers, and whatever the Orishas catch will be their power. So, that happened. All the powers rained down, and the Orishas caught what they could. And that's how the Orishas became the Orishas. The end. So that's the story how the Orishas got their powers. Yeah, that was probably one of the shortest stories we've had on the podcast. And the next story might be even shorter. I'll tell you more in the credits, so stay tuned. So, how do they relate to us today? First, fairness. Ormilla was the most powerful god in the sky. Like, he was the only one, he was wise, he had all the powers, while the rest of them were just human. And they had to ask Ormilla for help. Really, he could have just ignored them all, or give Ogo the powers. But instead, he decided to be fair and give everyone powers, which shows how rulers and us should behave as fair and kind people. Next is help. Ormilla is the most powerful god, was the most powerful god in the sky. But he still needed help, and he got it from a chameleon named Agembo, which shows the Orishas' relation to animals, and will directly use a lot in African mythology. And really, no matter how powerful we are, we should always ask for help when we need it. So, that's how the story relates to us today. Time for today's question of the day. And today's question of the day is, what power do you have? My power, clearly, as you can see, is talking. I'm a good talker. So maybe if I did have superpower, I'd be like Quake. You know, the guy with the earth has a fist and she can make earthquakes come out the ground. Maybe I'd be like the Banshee. I can speak and it can like shatter things or people and make them fall down. Like the Banshee, like she could, and then all these sound waves would come out and bounce people around like that. Maybe that'd be my power. But what power do you have? And what superpower would you have? Tell me through voice messages or in the comments, and maybe I'll put your answer on the podcast. And that's the podcast. Thank you for listening to The Culture Show, where I talk about African mythology and how it relates to us today. In the next episode, we'll talk about how inequality came into the world through Oleron. Also, shout out to the people of Benin. 5% of people from Benin have listened to my podcast. So thank you for listening. I really love that. And it was big news to me when I heard that 5% of people from another country have listened to my podcast. So thank you for listening to my podcast. Also, please subscribe and leave us a review. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye! It's the holiday season, which means it's time to shop till you drop for other people. So, if you need the latest shirts, hoodies, and mugs, I know where to look. I am making merchandise for the Culture Show. Yep, you heard me right. Merchandise. Shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more, representing African mythology and its gods. All this is coming soon to Amazon for the holiday season to give to your loved ones. So, if you're looking for a cheap shirt and hoodie that's still fashionable for your loved ones this holiday season, make sure you check out the Culture Show merchandise coming soon.